Mad scorecards, Anderson 7 foot, Somerset Chase 400, Cashel Valley Fells Ben Stokes, Hampshire James Vince and Liam Dawson are very good. Surrey have won the league for a millionth year in a row, and the greatest county championship game of all time, arguably, has just taken place between Gloucestershire and Glamorgan. This is the County Conversation. I am your host, Cameron Ponsonby, and I'm joined by Nick Friend. Nick, we've got an exclusive chat with kind of hero of the moment, James Bracey from that Gloucestershire Glamorgan game coming up. But first, you've covered a lot of county cricket. Have you ever seen a round like it?
No, because like tea on the first day, it kind of felt like all the games were going to be done inside 2.5 days, isn't it? Like,
It was remarkable.
it was everyone had prepared an absolute like cabbage patch. Everyone was obviously trying to look like everyone was trying to protect their seamers. Let's get this done in 2 days. Everyone can have a couple of days off before the blast comes back. Which, by the way, like, that does happen. Teams, I don't know if that happened this year, but clubs have certainly done it before. Then I don't know, like someone flicked a switch and it all went really weird.
Went flat.
It went really weird. Everyone dropped the heavy roller on it for 20 hours overnight, and everyone came back the next day. And say Somerset Chase 400s, we'll get to the Cheltenham. I don't know what the right word is. Just the absolutely
Extravaganza.
Just and like you said, best championship game of all time. It's got to be best. It's got to be the best first class game of all time, isn't it? For what it did, for all the bits of it, 100. Neither team got a batting point.
I've forgotten that detail, and I love that detail because you see these record scores. They almost chase 600 to win. 600.
Almost chase 600, and at the end of it, both teams get 3 points each for taking 9 wickets inside 100 overs on day one. And
congratulations to both.
Yeah, well done, lads. Mallet was green as anything, and then they get as many points for the tie as if they just shaken hands at 3 o'clock on the 4th day and gone, no one's going to win this.
Oh no, hang on. I'm happy to expose my lack of understanding of the tie point score, but a tie is 8 to a draw is 8. It's the same.
Yeah,
which is really tough.
I know. Oh, sorry. We might have to edit.
That was
those
very
5
exciting.
seconds.
Nick's headphones fell out because he got so angry.
I was saying that I bounced up by accident on my sofa and landed on my microphone.
That does happen. I think we should keep this bit of the podcast in. Keep going.
So, yeah, I just think, look, we've both sat. Everyone has sat through shocking cricket, and I sat through a draw between Middlesex and Glamorgan at the start of the season that, without declarations, would still be going on now, trying to find a winner. And they got 8 points each for that, plus more bonus points. The idea that gets to the same number of points as what we all sat and watched on Wednesday afternoon, evening, on a slightly grainy stream that very occasionally threatened to cut out from a school ground in Cheltenham is mental. Give them the keys, give them the just promote them both. It was, I've not seen. I mean, we'll play the interview.
We'll get to it. I think we should go back to how the county championship was decided in the 19th century, where the Wisden writers, I think it was, or the writers just collectively agreed who was the most fun to watch, and they gave them the prize.
Just like we get to decide player of the series.
Excellent idea.
With the women's ODIs, we decide the press pack decide to play the series, and as a general rule, you just sort of look at each other and go, Nat? Yeah, Nat.
Nat, yeah, Nat's Brun. She's the best. She's the most fun. She wins. Right. Before we get to the chat, we're just going to give you a quick run through of what's happened in this match, because I'm sure the majority of you, those listening and watching on YouTube, will be across this. But if you're not, you need to catch up. And if you are across it, let's just relive it together again. Why not? It was wonderful. It was exciting. So Gloucestershire batting first. They get 179. Glamorgan in reply, 197. A crucial 18-run lead in the first innings. Then we flip the switch. All of a sudden, it's a minefield rather than a green top or whatever. Gloucestershire pile on.
Minefield. A motorway.
Motorway. Thank you very much.
605 on a minefield is a good effort, though, lads.
That would be a very good effort. Gloucestershire score 610 for 5 declared, and a very important part of this match, which is increasingly being forgotten because of what unfolded. James Bracey scored a career best 204 not out. He scored a first-class double century, and he will not be remembered for that in this match. That will be a footnote, but a footnote in his achievements for what occurred later at Cheltenham. Then, tasked with chasing a first-class record score of 593 to win, Glamorgan finished on 592. Tie game. Sam Northeast with 187, Marnus Labuschagne with 119. They batted for 152 overs. Going into the last over, all 4 results were possible. Mason Crane was on strike. Glamorgan needed 2 runs to win. Gloucestershire needed 1 wicket to win, and 4 dot balls were sent down. Then, off the 5th ball of the over, Mason Crane takes a single, leaving the equation being 1 off 1. Jamie McElroy, no relation to Rory, is on strike. He swings hard, gets a thick edge, and James Bracey, with a bare hand, not a bare hand, sorry, with his inner on, but not his wicket-keeping glove, with his inner hand on, takes the most spectacular one-handed diving catch to his right and sprints off into the distance, in my opinion, rightly so, for the most adrenaline-filled, cathartic, depressing, horrific tie and moment in his first-class career. To hear all of that from his perspective, the man himself, the man who was there, here is Nick Friend talking to James Bracey.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cricketers County Conversation, where each week the idea has mainly been to bring you a guest to discuss subjects kind of around the game, not necessarily in the cricket we just seen in the last few days, but sometimes cricket happens, and on Wednesday, I don't know, it's probably safe to say we saw one of the maddest finishes ever to probably one of the maddest first-class games ever. So delighted to have the man at the centre of all of that with us. I'm going to say the taker of one of the most genuinely ridiculous catches I've seen. James Bracey, thanks for joining us. How are you the afternoon after the night before?
Thanks, Nick. Good. I mean, tired. It's been a busy week. Pretty action-packed week. So just trying to sort of get over it and get prepped for the blast to start again. So not been doing too much today.
So the quotes came in as they always do after the games too. We all get an email, all the quotes from whoever's put up to speak the night before, and clicked on your game. Your first words were extremely disappointed not to win the game. And I guess sort of kind of forgot about the wider context of the game within your 100-yard dash. Have you had a night to sleep on it? Like, is that, I don't know, like, how do you reflect on it? Is that how you feel with it, or have you been able to think about the moment and the broader context of, I guess, what all 22 of you were involved in a little bit more?
Yeah, I think when you isolate it, sort of that last ball or even sort of the last over, I think, us as 11 as a team are probably happy with coming out with a draw or a tie there. I think if you think about it as the whole 4 days, it depends where you look. If you look at day 1, we're probably happy with that. If you look at day 2, we're probably disappointed. And if you look at day 3, we're definitely disappointed with where it got to. I'm sure Glam will probably be the same. If they looked at day 1, they'd be disappointed. And if they looked at the final moments, day 4, they'd probably be disappointed that they haven't got over the line. But when you set a team close to 600, you don't really have eyes on anything else. So I think that's where we're sort of, certainly where I was at when I sort of did that interview, and I feel very similar now. I think just disappointed that we couldn't find sort of those finishing touches. But to be fair, like, both teams batted really well on the last couple of days. So obviously Sam and Marnus yesterday mainly, and then obviously Mason at the back end. They did work that also deserved to win. So I think if you look at it like that, you can probably come to the conclusion that 8 points each is probably fair.
Quite sure it's the way that obviously the regs work. But like, to come out of the game with 3 bowling points each and not a batting point between you, sort of is a reminder of quite how mad a game it was, because there were 20 odd wickets on day 1, and it didn't look like it was going to go much beyond day 2. But then, I mean, at what point in a run chase of 600. Obviously, you'd made 600 the day before. Like, at what point is there a point in that where you first start to think that you might lose? Like, as you say, you don't think about that when you set that target. Like, was the point when you went, God, like, we might come out on the wrong end of this?
Yeah, well, we knew, like, obviously Cheltenham scores quicker than, like, most outgrounds do. They score quicker than most county venues and test venues. So we knew sort of it was possible theoretically. And when Marnus and Sam were together and they'd put on maybe 70 up to that point on day 3, we sort of joked about it. We were like, well, if you're looking at it from our point of view, 7 wickets doesn't seem like a huge amount, even though, you know, it'll be hard work. But if you're them and you're looking at it, it's 380 runs in a day, 2 of the best batters in the division at the wicket. You've still got Chris Cook to come. You've still got Douthwaite to come as well. So guys who are obviously good players. And from their point of view, you're like, oh, well, if we get through the first session, first half of the day, naturally it will look quite doable. So, no, I think we were aware of it. I just don't think we ever thought, we always thought there would be a moment where we would just go bang, bang, and it would sort of be out of their reach. But that moment never really came. We kept sort of dangling, then taking one, and then they'd sort of take it away from us a bit, and then we'd sort of get one, and it was sort of like that all day. So, no, fair play to them. It was an epic chase, and when it got down to them needing 60 and they were 3 wickets in hand, I thought that was it. But yeah, there was plenty more to happen, obviously.
Yeah, so now let's get to the catch, because I've watched it 3-figure times, trying to work out. It just kept on, like, everyone seemed to have shared it on every platform going. And, there are so many layers to it. Like, I mean, firstly, just up front, is it the, I don't know, have you taken a better one?
No, I just think because I haven't got my glove on, I think that's probably why. Like, I'd probably say it's the best I've taken. There's other catches in terms of maybe skill with a glove on that I've really enjoyed, but I think the fact that it's the last ball, like in terms of actually the ball, in terms of it going down the leg, him having a big swipe at it and just sort of reacting, I think that's just, I don't think there'll be a better one.
Because you've taken so many gambles there, like glove off. Presumably you're standing closer for the shot at the stumps.
Yeah.
And I guess also, like, presumably you're not, I don't know, like, I know as a keeper you're always thinking about catching the ball, but I guess the one thing that has not entered your mind for that delivery is a nick-off. If you know what I mean.
That was the last thing I was expecting. Like, I was expecting sort of 90% of me was expecting him to miss it. The other 10% of me was expecting him to just try and get a bat on it and just run. I wasn't expecting him to go so hard at it. Fair play, like, but if you think about it, they already had a draw, so all he had to do was just get any bat on it, and you'd have thought it could go anywhere. So yeah, that was the last thing I was expecting, and it was just literally pure instinct. Just stuck a hand out, and thankfully it stuck.
Because you're basically there. You're at that point. You're basically there for shot at the stumps, right? Like
that is all I'm thinking about. I've already organised that Bo's going to run from gully to literally as the ball's bowled. As soon as he sees the batter miss it, like, he stood maybe 5 yards from the stumps, ready to go to the stumps so I can underarm it to him. I'm not even thinking about the possibility of taking a catch.
And it looked like it went in. It looks like it goes in the palm as well. Like,
it's literally
like you're not catching it
in the
otherwise.
middle.
Like,
there's no way, if that ball goes in the fingertips, it's not sticking, because it was going at, like, I just like let it fly, and I stood a little bit closer. I just don't. It's not like with a glove where you've got the webbing or anything like that. Like, it's one of those that's just luckily ended up sticking.
And so this is, I might have it's wrong, but Sussex away earlier this season, the contest, last game, last ball of the match, they needed 1 run to win. Same bowler, I think.
No, Matty bowled the one.
No, sorry, Matt Taylor.
Yeah.
But you have 2 gloves on, and I think I'm right in saying you tried to get a glove off and the umpire wasn't having it or something.
Yeah.
At what point did you know? I don't know. Did you know after that game? And you obviously shot the stumps, miss the stumps, they get through for the bye, win the game. At what point did you between then and yesterday, did you know that you could have the glove off and you?
Yeah, like I tried to sort of shout at the umpire while we were at Sussex and ask him if I could, because Cam Bancroft was sort of in the field and he was saying, just take your glove off, just put it in the back of your trousers. And I don't think the umpire sort of knew what I was asking and was sort of just saying no, no, no. So I didn't in the end. But I also discussed it with the lads and maybe made the mistake, was a bit naive and didn't sort of take a hint off Matty what sort of ball he was going to bowl. Because if I'd have known what sort of ball he was going to try and bowl, I'd have probably been stood up to the stumps anyway. So that was probably, on my part, that was a mistake. We had the same situation with Payne at Surrey 2 weeks later, and it was so obvious that Payne was going to try and nail his Yorker again. So it was so obvious that I would just go up to the stumps and be ready for that. But yeah, on this occasion, I guess you just got to play the percentages because, that one at Sussex, it could have easily been the same big swing.
Yeah.
Nick it. If I'm stood up to the stumps, I'm not catching it.
It's going to wipe you out, isn't it?
If I've got one glove on, there's a lot less chance of me catching it. And that's what I was playing for there because I knew he was going to have a big swing at it. But on this occasion, we were like, well, it's a number 11. Adge is bowling pretty well. There's a likelihood is if Adge misses the stumps, he's going to miss it. So you just got to set up for the run out. And yeah, it obviously didn't turn out like that, but it worked out for the best in the end.
And talk us through the celebration. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, you watch it back and it's like you're celebrating a draw and it seems ridiculous, doesn't it? And I look at it and I'm like, oh, what are you doing celebrating like that for a draw? But I think it was just frustration that, a couple of maybe decisions hadn't gone our way and we thought we could have won it already. And, as soon as you go into that last over and you think you're out of it, you think you're done, especially the last ball, sort of that is all that we need to take a wicket for sort of 8 points, which is, it could have been 8 more, but if that doesn't happen, you're 8 worse off again. So it's technically a point that gets you 8, a catch that gets you 8 points. Sorry. So I think that was it. It was just sort of relief, a bit of frustration, bit of disappointment. And I think when you take a catch like that in that situation, it sort of just takes over. And that's what
I was going to say, if he feathers one through to you, you're not running the length of the pitch, are you?
No, exactly. I think it's just the scenario led to that.
How many times have you watched it back?
I did watch it a few times yesterday. I haven't looked too much at social media today, but I have seen it a few times. It's popping up in group chats and people are sending it to me. So yeah, plenty. And
to clarify, Jamie McElroy, obviously the stream at Cheltenham, you don't get, there's no stump mic, but do you nick off leaving one a couple of overs earlier?
Yeah, we thought he did. But granted, it wasn't a huge one, but yeah, we were pretty sure. But he, to be fair to him, in that situation, he's stand firm. Umpires made a decision. That's where it ends. We had a few more opportunities afterwards. We had sort of another 5 overs where we could have created another chance, but it just took us to the final ball.
Did you? I don't know. I feel like when you share a game like that, and as you said before we start recording, obviously you guys back in the blast tomorrow. I'm sure Glamorgan are probably playing tomorrow as well. Probably isn't that much time to sit around as 2 teams and share a drink and try and laugh it off. You got the same number of points if you're shaking hands at 3, didn't you? It's a fun game. But did you sit with them? Did you chat afterwards and toast what you've been
Not
involved
really,
in?
no. I think they had to travel to Hove today, so I think they were sort of keen to get off and get themselves sorted. But they all seemed, similar to us, a bit in shock, sort of found it quite funny, and no doubt disappointed as well. I think for either of us to win that game would have put us in a great position to be pushing the top 2. So I think there was probably a little bit of disappointment in both camps. But there's some individuals who spoke to each other and the sort of outcome was the same with them. It was just crazy, to be honest.
What do you realise what? Are you aware during that game of what a mad game is? Like the records that are being ticked off one at a time. I don't know. Or is that the kind of thing that you only sort of find out afterwards once you've
Well, I mean, going into it that it's
a lot of
you don't
runs.
know for a fact, but it's going to be probably the biggest chase ever if they get it, because I mean, getting 600 anyway is not that common. I know there's been a lot of high scores this year, but chasing 600 on the final day is unheard of. So that's the only one you sort of know about. Until then, obviously, people keep reeling off all the things that are going on, and it's mental what happened.
I don't know if you know this one, but you're the first keeper to take 10 catches and score a double 100 in the first class game. Like, easy to. I think there were 2,120 balls in the game or something. Like, it's almost easy to boil it all down to the last one. But you must be chuffed with how you're going. I think I checked last. What you've taken the most catches, the most stumpings in the country, averaging 65 with the bat, double 100 yesterday. I don't know. Like, obviously us two have spoken a lot in the past, but like it's taken a bit of time to get back to it. But how chuffed are you to today to be playing like this again?
Yeah, really pleased. I think the batting in particular, the keeping's sort of been pretty good the last few years. I've found myself, getting to a place where I've been quite consistent with that, which is great. The batting has obviously been harder the last couple of seasons, and I think, us putting together a really good unit of batters has helped me sort of rediscover that. Adding Cam Bancroft to our team, and other guys sort of putting in great performances as well in that top 7 sort of makes it easier for me to score the runs myself. And obviously I've worked quite hard on some technical things to help with that as well. So it's great to see that it's going well. I'm really happy to have scored a good amount of runs already, but I'm just desperate to transfer that into a promotion season. So obviously we've got a long way to go and hopefully a few more wins yet.
Do you feel different to the last couple of years? Just the way you've,
I think so. I'm a bit more settled in the order. I think, the last couple of years been gone searching a little bit to try and find the best place to bat. Where do I want to bat? Sort of dropping my ego a little bit and saying maybe batting at 3 and keeping is just not going to work, which obviously it didn't really consistently. Just sort of committing to batting at 5 and learning to play that role better, and it's come good. So hopefully that continues.
It's very, very finally for you. What you wake up this morning after, I assume it was this morning or today or early this afternoon after yesterday. Like, what? Obviously you guys go again in the Blast tomorrow. Like what? How are you? Like, do you feel? I don't know. Like, after a game like that, you just must be drained beyond. Is that like just feel drained beyond belief, or are you kind of ready with the adrenaline of it?
I think it's more just like the emotional drained sort of feeling. Like you feel just drained of energy. My body actually, hopefully, feels okay. I've been in this morning and seen the physio and chilled out and done nothing today. But I think it's more emotionally just recharging, really, just recharging the batteries. So and then just getting into T20 again, going through some footage on Kent for tomorrow, hitting some white balls tomorrow morning, like just trying to get everything in place so that come 2:30 tomorrow, I'm ready to go. It's just,
It's a bit of a shame that you don't get to relive this one for a bit longer. Like, as you say, if you'd won it by 1 run, even more so, but you play a game like that. And I was speaking to Louis Kimber last week and talking about his double 100. He was like, got to look ahead to the next game now. And it's these are proper, like, once in a lifetime knocks in his case, game in your case. Like, would it be nice to be able to enjoy or at least reflect on it for a little longer than essentially, what, as you say, like, 12 waking hours?
Yeah, definitely. I know. And I think when I look back at it at the end of the season, it'll probably sink in more how much I've achieved this week. But as I keep saying, it will just mean that much more if we can convert it into a season where, we win some silverware, as you say. So hopefully I'm looking back on it on the 1st of October and thinking, that was a moment that really helped us up the table.
8 points gained.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure I will in the long run, but I think that disappointment will linger a little bit for the run-in, but hopefully help us achieve what we want to.
It's not even your first tie of the year, of course. Like, are they at all comparable? You drew at the Oval as well in the Blast. Like,
I don't think so. I think 4 days, just because it's 4 days, like it's close to 400 overs of cricket, and that's how it finishes up with 1 ball left. Just like the perfect ending. Whereas a T20, obviously, it's a little bit more common. It's a little bit more high pace, and it all happens a bit more quickly. Whereas here, it moves along for such a long time, and then suddenly, in the space of 30 minutes, you've ended up with that. Which, the Aussie lads came off and they were like, well, we don't get games like that at home. Like, it just doesn't happen, because that just doesn't happen on Aussie wickets at those grounds they play at. So, yeah, it was great fun. I'm sure it will live in the memory.
Well, that was James Bracey and Nick Friend. And I've got to admit, the emotional response I was after from Mr. Bracey just started to sneak out at the end there when he was referring to the Australian players who were like, we just wouldn't get those matches on our types of wickets. And the fact it'll be something he looks back on and remembers, because if there is a curse that impacts all of elite sport, it's next game syndrome. And I hate it with a passion, where something amazing happens and us as fans want to kind of savor it, wallow in it. That's not the right word. And just kind of get overexcited. And then the players themselves go, you've got to prepare for the Blast, got to prepare for the next game. But what was your takeaway from talking to him? What was your overriding emotion? Was he matching the kind of tone and the euphoria or the disappointment that you were expecting?
Well, just on that first point first, the for a start, like that next game syndrome thing is even more accentuated in cricket, where the schedule meant, for example, that they couldn't even. That to me, as a club cricketer, you'd be sat in a circle with the Oppo for hours afterwards on the outfield.
I'm not talking to the Oppo.
No,
yeah, well, I might have one
no,
chat
but you don't think.
And be like,
No, but you are. But you don't think you are toasting? At some point, you're toasting what you've just all been through. But Glamorgan had to get down to Hove because they're playing the Blast today. Gloucestershire are playing the Blast at 2:30 today. They've had 24 hours to try and make sense of what on earth happened in that on that final day in particular. Overall, I mean, I've got to know James sort of over the last few years, interviewing him a fair few times, and as everyone knows, he's been to a lot of, I guess, a fair few places with his career in that time. To be honest, like on a purely human level, I'm really chuffed for him that actually you mentioned the double 100. For him to have that game, and for him to have the season he's having, he's got the most dismissals in the country. And this is a guy who was keeping torn to shreds in the 2 games when he was, when he played for England.
Be good in the slips.
Look, he took 10 grabs.
He's unbelievable.
He took 10 grabs of the game. He's got an unbeaten double 100. He's got the most catches, most stumpings in the country. He's averaging 65 with a bat. And look, I honestly, and this isn't this. I don't think this is. Well, it probably is recency bias. It's the best catch I've ever seen. There are.
Oh yes.
So many layers. There are so many layers to this catch.
Talk me through that.
Well, you mentioned. Okay, number one is game context, right? If the keeper drops the ball, if the keeper drops the ball, if he bowls a slowie and it bounces before him and he fumbles it, the game's over. They run the bye.
Yeah.
If he drops, if he drops a goober, the game's over. If he drops a ball where Jamie McElroy flashes, as Bracey said in the interview, surprisingly hard, given that that he could have played that anyway, McElroy, and that's probably he's thinking the safest way. Fields in, get the bat in it, we win the game. He has actually 99 times out of 100 got the bit of bat in it that wins the game, because Bracey is wrong-footed. He's standing too close. He's there for the shot at the stumps. And as I posted him, and I was pleased I was right on this and not talking nonsense. He's not a keeper. He's not a wicketkeeper at that point. He's a fielder. He's there to have a shot at the stumps. And the last thing on the wicketkeeper's mind in that moment is a nick-off. Any kind of nick-off, let alone that kind of nick-off. And actually, I think it's the kind of catch that you're likely to see. You joke about the slip thing, but I can only think of seeing that kind of catch, really, where a spinner drags one down, batter goes to cut, and it flies to slip, and he throws a hand out because he's in such a weird no man's land position, no glove on, and also like, I asked this afterwards. I've never kept wicket before. But I would guess, and I think he kind of agreed, that that catch you was likely to take without a glove on. So you catch the ball in slightly different parts of your hand. If you're not got a glove on, that's gone straight to the palm of his hand. If that goes anywhere else in his hand, he does not catch that, right? With the keeping glove on, you want to catch it slightly higher because you've got the webbing around.
I was just thinking that.
So everything, and also that ball could take his face off. Like, it's flown at him. And as I say, I just think you put all of these things together. The fact that the only thing in his mind is a shot at the stumps, and as we touched on in that chat there, they've had a tie this season. They've had a tie the season where it's Surrey where he stood up to the stumps. They've also lost a game off the last ball where he stood back because of the discussion he had with the umpire that he mentions there, where the umpire seemed to suggest that he couldn't take his glove off. He's had the clarity to go, right, can I do this? Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Glove in the back pocket. Stand here for the shot at the stumps. But then to have the milliseconds to suddenly, for this not to be a shot at the stumps, to be the most outrageous catch, it's the best goalkeeper sort of reaction, say, off deflection you've seen. It's like, I just can't get over. I've watched it so many times. I cannot get over what an extraordinary catch is. As I say, not in traditional wicket-keeping style, but for all of those reasons.
Point, though, isn't it?
I think the bit that's got lost, that like everyone's talked a lot about the glove off and stuff, but I think the shot at the stumps and standing nearer. And by the way, Ajit Singh Dale, top 5 quickest bowlers in the country in the county circuit. He's sharp, he's skiddy. He's not the kind of bowler where you would ordinarily expect to, and also the depth that was starting to keep pretty low. You're not expecting that ball to fly at you. The catch itself, I think, is like one in 1,000.
You said it. I'm saying it now.
I think I said best I've seen. But yeah, go on.
I think that's something that you mentioned, which I think is very important, and I just hadn't quite grasped in terms of, you watch it and you go, why? It looks amazing, but you also go, why does that look weird? I don't understand why that looks weird. Why have I not seen a catch like that? And it's because he's standing closer. He's in an unconventional position. He's in that no man's land where if as Singh Dale is quick, if someone leaves the ball, you'd be like taking it like fingers up. You go, God, that hurts. Like, everyone take a step back. And just the kind of scene that you don't see in that setting where he said, I can't remember who he was talking to. Was it
Bo Webster at Gully?
Bo Webster, who is 5 yards away at Gully, basically in the firing line, in terms of like, if say McIlroy does get a cutaway, and the planning that goes into those last ball situations, I find them really interesting because I don't find it very interesting if you are allowed to take your glove off or not. I thought you were allowed to. I don't want to get into the minutiae of that. I don't care about that. That's whatever. But just how teams are now changing how they go about that one ball thing. It used to be you just had every man in just to stop anything. Now you often have cow corner out to stop someone just being able to have a swing and plinking over the infield. You have a fielder stood, if it's a fast bowler, you have a fielder stood at the non-strikers end often just to get the ball anywhere.
They had a very short mid-on. He was not there really to stop the ball going to mid-on. As you said, like, the thing you said about Webster there, Webster's not really there for the cut. Actually, one of the safest shots on the ground at Singh Dale's pace is probably to cut the ball at Webster. Webster is there as this. He's essentially a first baseman, isn't he? Like, he is there to get to, as Bracey said there, like, he is there to get to the stumps as quickly as possible so Bracey can hurl that ball in. Because if he pulls it, the screenshot I took and stuck on Twitter of the catch, when he grabs it in his hand, you can already see Mason Crane halfway down the pitch. So the speed that you've got to do this all at, and as you say, like, they've been burnt once by this season. They got it wrong at Sussex. And Bracey there also talking about how the plan that goes into delivery and knowing what they're going to bowl, how that could impact his position for that final ball. They got it wrong away at Sussex, where Matt Taylor beat the bat, but Bracey was back, and it was he actually had long enough for the spur ball to complete the single, and he missed the stumps anyway. Surrey, David Payne bowls a big Yorker, they get the ties. That's their 2 blast ones. Whereas this one is I don't know, like, in my head, watching it live, all I thought was there's going to be a shot at the stumps. I just didn't expect him to hit it. I didn't expect. I thought this goes down. I mean, I'm not talking nick off. I didn't think he was going to clear the infield. He was going to drive through cover. All I'm thinking is this is essentially a race between Bracey throwing the stumps and Crane running 20 yards. And
I agree. It's basically like a James Bond film scene where it's like,
it's
can you throw this thing and sneak it in?
And it's one of the other reasons this is so spectacular is because actually it's the one, as we said there, like it's the one outcome no one has factored in. No one has, the way everyone looks at that is he hits it, they win. He misses it, and Mason's got to run.
Maybe win. Yeah.
And maybe win.
Well, I hope we've done that some justice for what was a remarkable occasion, a remarkable situation. We are going to get back onto some of the attendance figures, some of the numbers around the ground. But this was fundamentally a very, very strange round of county championship cricket. Just odd scores. Derbyshire just decided not to play the sport and just lost very dramatically. You had Middlesex getting bowled out for 86, Leicestershire getting bowled for 179 in their match. And then basically all the second innings scores were often way higher than the first innings scores. You chatted with hero of last week, Louis Kimber, who played that remarkable innings. I think it was 243 off 112 balls or 120 balls, something like that. And you asked him the question, which I thought was a very good one. Would you have played this innings if you weren't in the middle of a blast block, basically, if you didn't have the white ball mentality? And his answer was like, maybe, but maybe not. Why was this? Is that, can we give a reason as to why these matches were weird, and how does the blast impact that, and how does the conspiracy theory, as I'm going to call it, of every ground apparently making green seam, which I did not know was a thing on the championship.
I'm not sure I got the answer. I think I got an answer to a slightly different question. I think the answer. I think the question. I think he took that question as, could you have played that knock if this wasn't a blast block where you're in white ball mode?
Okay.
And what I meant the question to be, and I think I think where we're on the same page is, I kind of meant you are. Well, I can't remember what Sussex were. It was so long ago now. They were about 100. What were they? 100 and something for 7, chasing 400 odds. Chasing 500 odds. They're miles behind the game. It's the last day. Everyone's knackered. These two champion rounds come in the middle of this blast block. Middle of the blast group stage, where the intensity changes dramatically from one to the other, but also they're very. The demands of both are very different, but they're still very high. The championship requires a lot of staying power. 4 days in a row, do a lot of time in the field. You can have to save a game. A lot of different, ways the game can look. Whereas the blast requires you to be high intensity at your physical sharpest for 20 overs in the field, then with the bat, and then you're pushing a game at 10:30 and driving home and getting home at 2 a.m, whatever, all those things. So what I kind of meant was, do you play that knock because you're almost sort of in this particular spell of the season, as other players have said to me the last sort of few months or so, since last winter, you just run out of steam. And do you want to be? Do you have it? Do you have the energy at this point in the season, in these 2 rounds particularly, to be blocking out for 80 overs? I know from spoke to other players that often the answer is no. But I think the blast is
really. If that means that was more people get 200 for 100 to potentially chase 500,
well,
make them more tired.
Because I think his answer also had a lot of validity to it, which is that you're in that mode. There is no coincidence that the record was equalled and then broken within 2 days. Dan Lawrence did Derbyshire, Louis Kimber did Tony Robinson. But
that's happened. This block of fixtures has happened in history. Players have been tired before.
Sorry,
Robinson went for 43 because he played the blast for the first time in his life.
That's what I'm saying. No, I was going back to his point, saying that actually there's no coincidence that these come after when you're essentially mid white ball focus.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll get on board with that.
There's absolutely no coincidence there. I just think there can't be. You're in that mode. Dan Lawrence has been open to batting the blast. It makes, and also of course he was back with the tails, and he said it happens. Louis Kimber, the same kind of, as he said to me, very much nothing to lose. They're miles behind the game. Let's just see what happens, see how far we can go. The green top thing is interesting as well. I think is interesting. It didn't actually play out this way in the end in most of the games because the decks did flatten out. There are probably a couple of other bits to throw in there. The fact that there are a fair few games at outgrounds in this round. Outground surfaces are just a bit more temperamental and volatile in what you might get than playing at the first class venue. Obviously, the Gloucestershire and Glamorgan game was at Cheltenham. The reason it played like that for the first couple of days is because Gloucestershire asked for something with a lot of grass on it because they're conscious of, pretty well founded in the end, of how flat and how quick scoring and how small Cheltenham is. So they wanted grass on it.
Yeah.
Then they dropped a heavy roller on it. I mean, you mentioned the scores on the first day. Gloucestershire were 80 for 8 before they were 180 for 10. So yeah, there are a lot of variables. Players, I've been told before that this certainly happened at with a few clubs last year that they recognised that their seam tats needed help getting through the season. Produced a couple of green tops to make sure the game was done 2.5 days and they could have another day off and didn't need to bowl 25, 30 overs innings. As these games transpired, I'm not convinced that was the case. Derbyshire bowled up 70, Yorkshire got 450, Middlesex and Leicestershire shared 180 each, and then suddenly was the 400 plays 300 game. Gloucester Morgan, as we've seen. By the way, is that not the best time declaration of all? That speaks, I think, to the surface as well. At the time of the Gloucester declaration, a lot of people at the time said, "What on earth are they doing? Why are they still batting? Why are they declaring shots? Giving 590 to win? Have you ever seen a better declaration than that? The humility to declare,
yes,
the humility to accept. No, but the humility to accept that if you're 610 for 5, the Oppo could be 610 for 5, because very, very few teams, would have gone that far, knowing how flat the deck is. All you're thinking with a deck that flat is we need the time to bowl them out. You're not really thinking if we could do it, they could do it. With an attacking declaration like that, if you know what I mean. So
I don't know. I don't know if I'll accept that as
okay,
because Bracey himself said that you're never thinking that they're actually going to chase it. He was like,
no, you're not. But they obviously gave it enough thought to. If you're never ever thinking that, then you're not leaving them 590 to win, right?
That's true. Right, Nick. We've got 6 minutes left. We need to move on. So we're going to get to Surrey, Essex, and then we're going to do some numbers. Okay. Surrey beat Essex by 145 runs. It was a top of the table clash. Basically, it wasn't a must win for Essex, but I would say it was a don't lose, as the very angry QPR fans shouted near me 10 years ago when we lost to Aston Villa. And I've remembered that phrase ever since. I thought it was kind of the best and worst of Surrey. They've beaten their rivals by 145 runs. They're pretty much, unless they lose 2 or 3 fixtures, they're going to win the 3rd title in a row. And I thought it was the best and worst of Surrey in that it is the best of Surrey in their heroes for the fixture were Tom Laws and Ryan Patel, academy graduates. Tom Laws, 21, brilliant, takes 4 from the last day to win the match. Fantastic. And he's not had too many opportunities behind Atkinson, Abbott, Roach, the million seamers they have there. And Ryan Patel, playing his 3rd match of the year, scores a century, potentially title-winning century from number 7 to clinch a match. Brilliant. On the flip side, I was kind of like, they had a one-off fixture where they could just fly in Sai Sudarshan, the next Indian superstar, in a way that no one else in the county game could have. Is that a fair criticism from me, or am I mean, I work on the stream, so I'm quite but is that a fair criticism to be I like drama, Nick. I wanted it to be a title decided between Surrey and Essex at Chelmsford on the last day of the season.
Yeah, the first name that came to, I was there for days 2 and 3. The first name that came to my mind when the signing was made of Starson was Ben Geddes, who
or Cameron Steele.
Yeah, I get there's a title to win. So, and actually, the alternative argument is that Surrey knew they were losing Roach and Abbott. They knew they wouldn't have Pope for this game, and the team at the top of the league. Yeah, they've got a lot of resource, but they're also very well organised. I remember them doing this last year when they thought they'd lose Ben Folkes to the Ashes. They brought in Tom Latham. In the end, they didn't lose Folkes. They had Latham and Folkes. There is something to be said for making sure you're as strong as you can be, particularly against your title rivals. But no, I was with you in that I thought a one-game signing of an overseas player when you've got guys looking around that squad who would be fixtures in other teams. Like, it felt like a shame to me. When I watched Ben Geddes a year ago, 2 years ago, like, looked such a good player, but I feel like we've hardly seen him since. And Ryan Patel coming in to get that 100, as you say, was very much the best of the best of a squad game. And crucially, the best of a county, who don't just bring in overseas players, they do also bring through more of their own than most. It wasn't just Laws and Patel in that game, was it? It was Dom Sibley, Roy Burns, Jamie Smith. I don't have the team in front of me, so I'm going to forget names. James Taylor's not one of their own, but he's a youngster who spent most of his professional career at Surrey now. Amar Verdi was out on loan playing for Worcestershire this round. Poor guy didn't get a bowl because it was such a green top. I
feel like
it's interesting. I hadn't thought about him until you'd stuck it on the.
I feel like we've sufficiently sat on the fence there and concluded nothing. But there we go. But something that was I think good. But no, sorry, we need to touch.
We disagree on this, don't we? If we're talking about what.
So, for those unaware, Jordan Cox, Essex's leading run scorer of the season, had to leave the match on day one with what turned out to be appendicitis. Yeah, he had to have his appendix removed on night one. And the rules are as such that their concussion substitutes are allowed in the sport, but not for anything else. Essex lose with 25 overs left to go of day 4, and they're without their best batter. So you can make a very strong case that it is a very decisive factor of the game.
So you think this is fine?
I think it is fine I think it is better. I think it is potentially better than the alternative where you loosen the requirements for substitution and they will be what's the word? Where you like manipulate it, exploit them exactly. If we start opening up, I like that cricket. You pick 11. I like the tactical element.
Yeah, but
you have to balance.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So what you said there about the race isn't quite the case. There are currently 3 reasons for which you can change your team mid-game: England selection, England subsidiaries, 19s Lions, COVID or concussion. Now, the COVID, take England, leave that. The COVID concussion ones are interesting here, and I think this is where there needs to be some, to use your word, loosening a bit. Like, now, the COVID concussion substitutes are there essentially to stop you being the hero. They are injury, illness related issues that players as professionals will want to play through. Now, what they've said is you cannot play through concussion. It is dangerous. It's not safe. But and likewise with COVID, you cannot play through this. You should not be around your teammates or other people. So if you get these, we do not be the hero. Go home, recover. But you can be replaced. So you don't have to be the hero because someone can come in and step in for you. That's where those exist. Where I'm uncomfortable with this is that Jordan Cox would spend 3 overs on the field on day 1 with went off with what they thought was severe stomach cramps. He's then, at the time, it was thought it could just be part of a team-wide bug, which happens a lot of this time of the season when players have been essentially on a coach together for the last 3-4 weeks, going between blast games. So he's off there. He gets whisked to hospital that evening for surgery on his appendix. If he'd got to hospital and they've gone, right, you need your appendix out now, and by the way, you've also got COVID, he'd have got a substitute. In the same way that had he arrived at hospital and someone had dropped something on him, then he'd gone, by the way, you need your appendix out and you're now concussed. Now, appendicitis...
Maybe they should have done that.
Appendicitis, if he... As you said there, it's a title decider for Essex, in a sense. Keeps him in it, kicks him out of it. He's got awful stomach cramps, struggling through the first day. But if he's thinking this is a massive day, they need my runs. So the leading run scorer for Essex, he's been their best player this season. He's the key at number 5, and it's a massive game away at Surrey where you want to impress. You're playing against a load of England players, etc. If he goes, sod it, ply me with pills, and I will bat. He plays 4 days of cricket with whatever's wrong with his appendix because he wants to be the hero and he thinks he's ill, but he can play through illness because it's the dumb thing in this game. Now, if he does that, he could go into hospital 3-4 days later, in a far worse medical position than he does on Monday evening, or sorry, whatever evening it was, Sunday evening. It's not an injury. It's not something that's been caused through the game. And crucially, going back to that point around COVID and concussion and the not being a hero thing, it fits right into the middle of that, where you've got a player who's genuinely unwell and his health is deteriorating for every day that he is playing cricket instead. That it should not be too hard for the game to say, this guy who's in hospital having surgery on his appendix and will not play for another however many weeks it takes to recover from that, you should just get a replacement. I'm all for someone popping their hamstring and it being tough luck, but that's very different to what to me is much closer to the concussion COVID protocol than tearing a hamstring going for a second run.
I understand that, but I don't necessarily agree on the hero front, where it's like, if Cox had been allowed a substitution on day one, I don't think the hero equation is solved, because you still want to play, you still want to be in there. It's not like he's like, oh, I can come out and someone else can come in, so I'm going to give up my spot. I don't think that's quite a neat and tidy swap. And I think it just then opens up potentials for teams to manipulate players as well, where you go, oh, are you injured? Are you feeling that? Do you want to swap? Because
no,
that did happen
make it more
in the
efficient.
Netherlands.
You can make it more efficient than that,
But like how? Like what?
A doctor.
Mate, Bloodgate, rugby union. Like it will.
But that was what
where they popped.
Bloodgate is one instance in
where a doctor gave a bloke a fake blood pill.
And was banned
the
for
Netherlands,
a very long
2014. They packed off one of their players to go and get a back scan. This is reported, allegedly, but packed off someone to go and get a back scan, and he was like, "I'm fine." But they wanted to get Tom Cooper in because he was now available, because he wasn't playing in the Sheffield Shield final. I think it is a messier situation that you walk into. I agree. It's rubbish. It was bad that Jordan Cox couldn't play. It corrupted the game to a certain extent. But I'd rather corrupt the game than sports, Nick.
Do you not think the next morning, the morning of day 2, Essex turn up at the ground and go, right, Essex should be able to say on the morning of day 2 that Jordan Cox has undergone surgery. Now, I don't think Bloodgate involved anyone having their leg removed. He was given a pill. He was given a fake pill. If you come out, if the next morning you go, right, he's had surgery, we've not batted yet.
All right.
Essex played with 10 men for 3 days in a title decider. That to me is just not sensible.
I'm willing to compromise with you, and we're going to have 4 methods of substitution. It's going to be international call-up, concussion, COVID, or amputation. Those are the only 4 that are allowed to take place. But right, and then just to round off, something, a positive note, but also something to kind of think about in the context of the world, attendance numbers. So that Gloucestershire Glamorgan stream got up to 12,000 streams at the end of the day. When I clicked on it at the end of the last over, it jumped from 8,000 to 10,000. The actual video of his, that was just me. I had 2,000 devices. And then on Twitter and Instagram, the catch has been viewed 4 million times and counting, just in isolation. There's also loads of other highlights. Obviously excellent. Surrey had their Red Bull Festival of Cricket on the Sunday. It rained a bit, which was a shame, but they had 6,300 people in, which was a county championship record, I believe. They tweeted that out, whether it was in the 21st century or ever. 21st century. And 21st century, and they had almost 14,000 people across the game. I am going to leave this with just something to think about, because I both, on the one hand, go, excellent. What wonderful news. The county championship is attracting eyeballs and people are wanting to spend their time going to watch it. On the other hand, I see Surrey had a match attendance of 13,700 across 4 days, and that being celebrated. And I can't but help of thinking of a 2/3 full Loftus Road midweek match against Swindon, where you think that is bad. So, hey, is it a success in the context we live in? Is it a thing to cheer about? I don't know. Nick, I'm not even going to give you the chance to answer that one, because we got very excited with today's.
That's a couple of nasty relegations for Swindon at home.
That is a couple of. We'll be all right. I just plucked out a team. I was Sam Morshead, your former boss, leader, and friend who worked for the Cricketer. I was obviously in a Sam Morshead frame of mind. Right. Nobody covers county cricket like the Cricketer, and you can get access to all of our coverage online from as little as £3.99 a month. Our own top team of county champions have now won the outstanding online coverage of domestic cricket prize at the ECB Domestic Cricket Journalism Awards for 6 years running. So you don't have to take our word for it. Thank you to James Bracey for joining us over. Thank you to James Bracey for joining us earlier. Thank you to Nick Friend for joining us now. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. It was a fantastic week of cricket. We will be back next week with more, hopefully, reporting of this wonderful sport we have that 13,706 people went to watch at Surrey over the course of 4 days. See you then.